Lucy, please confirm that you can see my slides.
Yes, I can read it.
Okay. So African Pharmaceutical Network was established in 2020 amidst the COVID-19 pandemic out of the desire to address challenges faced in Africa's pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare system. Considering the unrest that was caused by the pandemic all over the world and its impact in different regions, the limitations of Africa's pharmaceutical systems were exposed, limitations such as weak regulatory systems, weak healthcare systems, and limited local manufacturing in the continent. During that time, we also noticed that the conversation was being driven by governments and politicians, but the conversation was not being driven from the industry. Therefore, African Pharmaceutical Network was established as a network that brings together pharmaceutical professionals, stakeholders, and organizations working in the African pharmaceutical sector for the purpose of knowledge sharing, policy shaping, and innovation nurturing partnerships leading towards a robust pharmaceutical sector. And what is our aim as an organization? What is our vision and what is our mission? Our vision is to ensure reliable access to safe, quality, efficacious, and affordable medicines for pharmaceutical services for the African people. The background towards the establishment of APN. When it came to the establishment of our organization, in the continent, we know that there is limited local manufacturing capacity. When you see that most of the vaccines and the medicines that we have, most of them are usually imported. Africa relies up to 70 or 80% of importations. And when you look at this scenario, even during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were at a place where we had to rely on other continents so that we may receive vaccines or we may receive medicines. But in this particular instance, we need to continue asking ourselves, how can we boost local manufacturing in the continent? And right now, AU has been leading most of these conversations when you look at the partnership that they had with Gavi Institute, so that to ensure that there is vaccine manufacturing in the continent. Not so many countries are involved, but at least we know that we can make better and continue to do better. Then we also noticed that there was segregated continental pharmaceutical industry operations. This is ranging from regulatory processes, pharmaceutical supply chain systems, and pharmaceutical care. But right now, this conversation is also changing because in the continent right now, we are all working towards regulatory harmonization. And this is through the AMA. This is through AMA. So when we come together as a continent, we have to be in a place where we are able to work and have processes that are easier for us to use so that we may ensure that there is access to medicines, access to vaccines, access to pharmaceutical care. Not having industry players working in silos, but coming together so that every African person, we may not have the high numbers where people are dying because of lack of medicines, lack of vaccines, only if we can come together and have a harmonization or a convergence. And then we also noticed that there was no common platform to drive industry-led continental agenda. This is why APN was formed. Now we can come together in a local platform and drive change, drive conversations, and ensure that the pharmaceutical industry in Africa is growing and it is attracting investors. Then what is our aim as an organization? Our aim is fostering continental knowledge sharing and workforce development within the pharmaceutical industry. The industry is as successful as the kind of knowledge that we have, and those who have access to that knowledge and having a workforce that is well equipped. It is as successful with us putting into work that which we already have. Our aim also is to promote best practices, stimulate innovative models of service delivery in the pharmaceutical industry. I believe that each and every one of us would not want to be in a situation where you are treated or you are receiving healthcare from someone who is not qualified. You are not getting the best. Where you go to a hospital where no one really is interested in taking care of you. No one really is interested in meeting your needs. We do not want that kind of a practice in our industry. We also aim to champion for a responsive, market-driven policies and regulatory frameworks in the African pharmaceutical industry. The policies that we have, they need to be working to our advantage. We need to be ensuring that the regulatory frameworks that we are developing as an African pharmaceutical industry, that these are regulatory frameworks that are working towards the goal of ensuring that the African people continue to have access to the pharmaceutical services that they need. And our aim also is to stimulate investment in the African pharmaceutical industry. In as much as we are here and we are doing these great works, we need also to remember that there is a future and there is a tomorrow, and we still need many more people to keep investing in the pharmaceutical industry. There is a need and there is a burden in the continent, and these needs and these burdens, they have solutions, and this is through the investments that we are going to be bringing in the continent. So there is need to have an environment that is enabling, that continues to stimulate investment. So what are our priorities as an organization? Our priorities are workforce development, as I had said, and we also have business support ecosystem and policy shaping, and I will be speaking about this in detail in a few minutes. And how do we do this? How do we achieve our vision? How do we achieve our mission? Through industry discussion forums, such as the one that we are having this afternoon. When we come together, we continue to build on these conversations, we receive insights. By taking those insights, we go back to our respective countries, respective organizations, and we drive change and bring these ideas into conceptualization. We also do this through training and experiential learning opportunities. We have a pharmacy academy where we train professionals. We have 3 courses that have been rolled out since 2023, and we are continuing to empower professionals within the African industry that they may continue to have the capacity to be fit for office and to deliver on the desires of the people. We also do this through policy advocacy and environment shaping. We are also into market intelligence and technical support to our stakeholders, seeing that we are not working in an industry that we are working by ourselves, but we know that there are stakeholders who are working together with us. They are in need of particular information, of particular support. We are that network that provides support and market intelligence to our stakeholders. What is our team? We have an advisory board, we have a secretariat and a leadership team. On our advisory board, we have McDonald Nose. He's a board member. He works with Takeda based in the US. We have Kirti Nasai, he's a board member. She works with Chemonix International. She's based in South Africa. And we have John Paul Omolo, who is the board chairperson. And then we also have at our secretariat team, we have Dr. Lucy Machocho. We've just met her and me as well. And the leadership team of this organization is under the able hands of Dr. Odhiambo David, who is our curator, and the rest are also working together with us so that we may continue to ensure that we are meeting the needs of those who work with us, the needs of our stakeholders, and working towards our vision. Our partners, we have IFPMA, FIP, H3D Foundation, Bloom Public Health, Empower Swiss, African Pharmaceutical Forum, Reculture Limited, and the SPAC. Our geographical footprint right now is at 16 different countries in Africa, and we are looking to expand. And through this kind of conversation that we are having even this afternoon, we are looking to see how far can we stretch our boundaries, how far can we meet other needs that are in different markets other than the African continent. So at the moment, our geographical footprint is in 16 countries, but we are open to engaging with other pharmaceutical and industry players in different markets outside Africa. Our offerings, we have the pharmaceutical workforce development, and this is how it is designed through training and workshop and industry discussion forums. Under the trainings, these are under the pharmacy academy. We have the regulatory affairs training, the pharmacovigilance training, and the pharmaceutical supply chain training. We usually have different industry discussion forums and workshops where we come together for skill development for industry professionals. We support product launches, formulation of policy positions, and gathering market intelligence and insights on key topics. Our courses, as I had said, these are the courses that we have at the moment, and please feel free to engage with us if you have seen in either of these courses and you would love to learn together with us. We welcome you on board. We are going to support you through the training, and we hope that you will continue to be empowering yourself so that you can be fit for office and fit for purpose. Then we had the second pillar, which was the business support ecosystem, the business ecosystem support. And this is through regulatory services, clinical trials, and pharmacovigilance services. This is how we continue to work with the industry players, that we continue to grant unto them regulatory intelligence, regulatory filing of applications, and follow-up of approvals, ensuring that if you are making an approval in a particular country, the registration, how would you file it? How would you make follow-ups? How would you do your renewals? We will offer all these kinds of support to you if you're working together with us. And under also business ecosystem support, we also have market intelligence, research, and business support services. So when it comes to partnership and policy advocacy, this is the last pillar that we had. As an organization, we also offer membership. And when you look at our membership right now, there is a particular project that we are working on, and this is the AMA ratification, ensuring that different African countries, the AU countries, that they are ratifying the AMA treaty, because we know the kind of benefit that we are going to gain as a continent when we get into AMA ratification. And AMA now is already, yes, it is already in operation. It has already been established and it is working, but we need more countries to continue ratifying, so that we do not have particular countries benefiting and others are not benefiting, but we need to ensure that as an entire continent, we are all working together. So when it comes to policy priorities, our priorities are on the operationalization of AMA. We have the development of frameworks and implementation of the continental free trade area. We have local manufacturing in Africa, and this is a conversation that has been ongoing for the last 3 years, and it is still continuing. We are seeing many other investors going to set up vaccine manufacturing sites, even in Rwanda. These are the kinds of things that we are excited, and we continue to drive conversations towards. And then we are also have a priority area, which is on substandard and falsified medicines, regulatory framework, fostering ethical business practices in the pharmaceutical sector in Africa. And then we have different strategic partnerships that we are also looking to have within this year and the years that are coming. So what next for you after joining this webinar? What would you love to do, and how would you like to work together with us? We'd like to give you a few options that you can engage with us after joining this webinar. You can either become a member of APN, you can partner with us on different projects, or you can learn with us in our Pharmacy Academy. And up to that is the end of my presentation. And I wish you all the best as we continue to learn together in this industry forum. Back to you, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you for confirming. So we'll get right into it. And maybe before I introduce the speaker and we kick off the session, I just want to give reasoning as to why we are gathered here today and why this conversation is important to us, especially those within the continent of Africa. So today we'll be covering, we'll be doing understanding Swissmedic medicines authorization for global health products and its role in health product security in Africa. So as we all know, universal health coverage champions for accessibility and affordability of safe, effective, and quality medicines. But we've seen that in Africa, the journey to UHC has been quite challenging because of challenges such as weak supply chain systems, as well as challenges within the regulatory systems, both within the national level and at regional level. And we've been lucky enough to have initiatives that drive to promote accessibility to safe and effective medicines, with AMRH being a pioneer, and more recently, the African Medicines Agency. And despite that, we've also garnered support from external organizations such as WHO and Swissmedic, and this Swissmedic medicines market authorization for global health products is one of the ways in which the Swissmedic is helping regulatory systems within the continent. And to be more specific, its objective is to improve and accelerate access to health interventions and therapeutic products in the low and middle income countries. And this is particularly the case for diseases that disproportionately affect these particular countries, the low and middle income countries. And you'll find that in Africa, this has diseases like malaria, because Africa faces the highest burden of malaria, as well as HIV and TB. So then the question that we should be asking ourselves is, given that this procedure is available in the market, yet the industry itself is not utilizing it as much. So why is this the case? Is it that the industry themselves don't understand the procedure itself? Then how can we be able to sensitize the industry to be able to utilize this pathway? Because we believe that it will be of value in promoting access to safe and effective and quality medicines for Africans. So then how can we be able to make this more feasible for our industry to adopt? And this is why we are gathered here today, because we want to learn more on the procedure itself, the eligibility, and see how we can utilize it for health product security within Africa. And with that, kindly allow me to share my screen as I introduce the speaker for today. So our speaker today is Lodovico Paganini, and he's a scientific officer at the Swissmedic organization. So Lodovico is a public administration specialist by training, holding a Master of Arts degree in Public Management and Policy from the University of Bern, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in International Affairs from the University of St. Gallen. He joined Swissmedic, the Swiss Agency for Therapeutic Products, in March 2018, where he currently holds the position of Scientific Officer within the Stakeholder Engagement Division. Mr. Paganini is a focal person for the strategic and operational coordination of the regulatory system strengthening activities supported and implemented by Swissmedic in close collaboration with the WHO, the Swissmedic Development and the Cooperation Agency, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and partner authorities on the field. Before joining Swissmedic, he absolved an academic internship at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in Bern and completed a diplomatic traineeship at the Swiss Embassy in Accra, Ghana. Lodovico, the floor is yours. Karibu sana. Lodovico, can you hear me?
I think he's having a technical issue, but let us look into it.
You can see him. Juliet, are you able to see him on the call? I found him. Can you please?
Yes, he is.
So Lodovico, I've just added you as a presenter. Please let me know if it's reflected on your end.
Great. Now I was able to unmute myself. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can. Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, for some reasons I wasn't able to unmute myself, but now it seems to be all okay. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for this kind invitation to the APN team for this opportunity to present and further sensitize the industry about our procedure, about the MAGHP. So I will now share my screen. And hopefully, I hope you can see the slides in full screen modus.
Yes, we can.
Great. So it's my pleasure to go into the details about what the MAGHP is, what its goal is, and what timelines and procedural steps are, and to get into some more details also in terms of a specific case study, some updates, and finally some conclusions and benefits. So let's get into it by just showing what it entails, what the marketing authorization for global health products is composed of. And first of all, the MAGHP is based on the approach of involving regional national regulatory agencies and the WHO in the Swissmedic assessment process. This happens upon an applicant's request. So the procedure needs to be initiated by the industry, and this is why we are so eager and so happy to be able to present the procedure within this large network of industry and PDP representatives. So the basic idea is to leverage the Swissmedic status as a reference authority, and recently also as a recognized WHO listed authority, to leverage on collaborative regulatory work to target medical needs in the global south and to accelerate ultimately access to important medicines for those populations in need. And so, as you can see, the procedure consists of two, I would say, independent but ideally subsequent components. One is the scientific advice, which is intended to clarify scientific questions in the early development phase of a product. And those questions can rely on the quality of the APIs and products, on the planning and organization of preclinical and also clinical trials, as well as on aspects of pharmacovigilance and RMPs. Then the actual marketing authorization procedure is one that follows the regular Swissmedic marketing authorization procedure and processes. So we have the same timeframes, the same procedural steps and evaluation criteria, and it results in an authorization for the Swiss market as a first, let's say, concrete result of the procedure. The difference to the, let's say, regular marketing authorization, as I said, is that we also have concerned or targeted NRAs and WHO experts involved into the procedure. And at this point, maybe to also touch on some general requirement for submission. So for submission to the Swissmedic, what is needed is a Swiss marketing authorization holder or an applicant, which has the necessary authorizations to act as such. This means that naturally we would need an applicant who is based in Switzerland, or otherwise also that can act through a regulatory office or a local representative that meets those requirements. So let's now go into some more details, and before doing that, just a quick mention about the MAGHP Lite. This is a some sort of procedure that which we came up with the idea during the pandemic to be able to tackle and to apply the MAGHP to submissions in the fast track and temporary authorization procedures. So this is a procedure which is intended when timelines are kind of strict and quick, where there is not much time to interact and to engage with other NRAs. So this MAGHP Lite would allow us to quickly share assessment reports and any other type of information and documentation with concerned NRAs for them to be able to rely upon those information and to quickly also make a decision in terms of authorization of a certain product. Let's now have a look at the scope and eligibility for the MAGHP. So as we've mentioned, the goal is to accelerate access to medicinal products that target a concrete medical need in endemic regions. We have a focus on the medical need in the global south. And in terms of medicinal products, eligibility is limited to new registrations. That means a product cannot already be authorized by Swissmedic. So new registrations or new indications of medicinal products with a new active substance and products with a known active substance. In terms of therapeutic areas, we do not have any specific restrictions. This means it's on a case-by-case basis, but essentially, as mentioned, we accept any type of products that target a concrete medical need in the global south. How does it look like? So this will be a short overview, graphical overview on the different type of parties involved and how they interact. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the MAGHP needs to be initiated by the applicant. So this is the first step with the applicant expressing their interest to participate in the MAGHP. If this all goes through, then we receive the submission of the documentation, which we then proceed to share with the targeted NMRAs and the WHO, if that's something that the applicant also wishes to have. And during the procedure, we also encourage the applicant to submit as soon as possible, ideally also in parallel. Sorry, I've just moved out of the presentation. Yeah, to submit in parallel also to the NMRAs. So this is the next needed step within the procedure. And then as a last also possible step is to submit to the WHO collaborative registration procedure or and WHO PQ to further expand the outreach of the procedure. So we'll now have the chance to go into the details for each of the steps. And just quickly regarding the involvement and interactions, what happens. So essentially, we get we provide access to the full documentation to the involved assessors and WHO. We provide all the assessment reports as generated through the procedure, of course, all the documentation, list of questions. But it's not just a matter of sharing information, it's also a matter of getting input from the participating assessors from the targeted NMRAs. So we really want to collect input on the assessment reports, on the list of questions, and generate a consolidated assessment report. So we really want the procedure to be a collaborative procedure where we get input from all authorities that are involved, so that we can generate them maximum possible information to the assessment reports. The participating assessors also participate in the internal Swissmedic meetings, being it already in the first development phase in the scientific advice or pre-submission meetings, but then during the actual assessment, also in the case team meetings, which are the internal meetings of the team of assessors that are dealing with a certain type of application. And so in these case team meetings, we get the chance to deliberate on any open points, to discuss on questions, comments, inputs, with the aim to then come up with a consensus within the overall assessment team. A quick mention also in terms of who is participating. So this depends. This is a case-by-case scenario where the applicant informs us about the NRAs that they want to have into the assessment, and also WHO, specific WHO experts from perhaps the disease programs at WHO. And we get this list, we consolidate or we convalidate the list, and then it's actually up to the NRAs and WHO to decide if they want to participate or not. We have here a maximum of 10 NRAs that we can deal with, to say so. It's a matter of purely logistical reasons, so that we can really get the best out of this collaborative procedure. So now we come to the procedural milestones, where you can see here on this slide the different steps of the evaluation. What you see here is basically how a normal standard Swissmedic evaluation looks like. The two differentiating points are at the beginning with the prior notification, and at the end with what happens after the Swissmedic decision, what happens in the targeted NRAs. And we'll have now a look into this single milestones. So the prior notification, as I've mentioned, is something that is unique to the MAGHP. This is the amount of time that we plan to coordinate with the participating NRAs and WHO. So we say the applicant has 6 to 3 months of time before the planned submission date to inform us about the targeted NRAs, to submit this prior notification so that we have time enough to coordinate. We also recommend, excuse me, to organize a pre-submission meeting. This is to clarify any questions that regard the documentation. And this time, as I've mentioned, is happens all before the actual formal submission. Then we come to the actual submission and validation of the dossier, where we then also get in close contact with the NRAs that are involved and WHO, and we get their confirmation of active participation. After these 30 days that are intended for validation, we then proceed with the evaluation phase 1. And here we get into the actual business of it, where we first of all start with the internal Swissmedic assessment, where the preliminary evaluation reports are drafted, and where we get inputs and peer review basically from the targeted NRAs, to then consolidate those comments and to come up with one consolidated list of questions. We then go into the evaluation phase 2, where we then review the answers to the list of questions. And here it's the same kind of procedure or processes, where we get first a preliminary reports from the Swissmedic team, and then we go into the broader group and consolidate and collect all the inputs, comments, and try to come up with a single voice, and to consolidate this into the final assessment reports. We then in Switzerland have to issue a so-called preliminary decision, which with the labeling phase and the drafting of the SMPCs and patient information leaflet can take up to 90 days. And after that, it's time for the final decision, which is sent to the applicant and also made available to the NRAs and WHO. And now, actually, then we go into the last mile or to the last authorization mile, where the NRAs are asked to either confirm their decision according to their own requirements based on the work on the assessment that has been done through the MAGHP, or if they have another opinion, they are also free, of course, to take another decision. But ideally, of course, the Swissmedic decision would align with decisions by the NRAs. The NRAs are expected to do so to approve or to reject the product within 90 calendar days from receipt of the dossier. So the timing of the receipt of the dossier at the NRAs can vary from procedure to procedure, but also from NRA to NRA, depending on the applicant and their strategic approach to market to submitting the applications. And as I've mentioned before, in order to accelerate the decision process, we encourage the applicants to submit as early as possible. So this gives us an extra motivation, an extra, kind of motivation, yes, to make the most out of the collaborative procedure. So this is about the milestones. We now go into the what I've mentioned in the first overview of the procedure, which is the cooperation with WHO and how the MAGHP can be complementary to the WHO collaborative registration procedure. So we are in continuous exchange with WHO. We try to optimize and align the MAGHP to the WHO procedures and pathways. And we've confirmed that the collaborative registration procedure needs to be encouraged as a vehicle of to facilitate the exchange of assessment reports and inspection reports, especially also following the MAGHP. So, as I've mentioned, through the MAGHP, we can involve 10 NRAs. But if we want to expand the outreach and to get authorization in the most countries where it's needed, we can leverage on that and go also through the WHO CRP, which allows us to reach many more NRAs. The CRP also allows for an effective management of post-authorization changes. So if the applicant decides to submit to the MAGHP and in parallel to through the CRP, we can actually really ensure that the post-authorization changes are dealt in a well-organized way through the WHO already existing mechanisms, and this is I think a great advantage. As I've mentioned, the CRP enables to increase the outreach of the procedure, and also if products go through the MAGHP which are eligible for pre-qualification, then it can also be encouraged to submit to PQ. And to mention, if a product has gone through the MAGHP and has been assessed through this procedure, WHO PQ will do an abridged assessment, which will take much shorter timelines to be pre-qualified. Now I'll just give you some information about the latest updates and activities within the MAGHP. So we had a series of requests for scientific advices in the last couple of years, which is something that we've really felt the industry is taking up this interest in getting scientific advice through the MAGHP. I think this is really great. This also shows us that the the message got out there, that the industry is aware of this option, and we also look forward to then see these products that have been given scientific advice that at some point in a couple of years or so, that they will then also be submitted through the procedure. Now, in terms of currently ongoing procedures, we've got one product for which is an ophthalmic anesthetic, which has been submitted in the first quarter of this year, where the assessment is ongoing. We have one targeted NRA from Africa that is involved, and then a second one which is also ongoing, where 10 targeted countries from Africa have been contacted. I think up to now we have 8 who have confirmed their active participation. And we also have WHO disease programs, so the global malaria program involved in the procedure. This is a case study from the case study from the MAGHP, just to show you in a concrete way what I've told you, how it should work in theory, and now we can see how it actually looked like. So we've got this project for prevention of postpartum uterine atony, where we had 8 NRAs, I think, involved. 7 of those had granted authorization, and 3 of these 7 did so in less than 90 days. So within the targeted timelines, we had an overall median approval time of 5 months and a half, which is above the 3-month targeted 3-month, but still, I think a good signal that the MAGHP can really boost and accelerate the access, given the when we think about the standard median approval times in the continent, which could take up several years. I think this is a very good first step to further promote the MAGHP, to further engage with industry and leverage on this potential pathway. We also got, as I mentioned, about the interaction with the collaborative registration procedure. Based on the MAGHP, we got approval also in other 3 countries. I think currently there are even more. At the time where I drafted the slides, there were those 3 countries, but they might be even more. We also got positive recommendation from the Caribbean regulatory system, and the product has been pre-qualified in an abridged assessment based on the MAGHP work. So on top of that, to really build on these lessons learned, we tried to do as many advocacy and sensitizations events as possible to really target the industry, potential interested parties, product development partners, and so on. So this webinar is part of these efforts to get the message out there, sensitize the industry, also collect inputs, questions, and try to, as we do, to continuously improve the procedure, which is fundamental. I think we really need to listen to both the needs from the industry as well as from the targeted NRAs to try to offer the best possible pathway, which really gives an added value to all the involved parties. We continue to cooperate and align with WHO, and we also engaged several times with the EMA, who is offering a similar pathway, but still somewhat different to the MAGHP, which is called the EU M4All. And I think most of you might be well aware of this pathway offered by the EMA. So also here we try to align as far as possible, especially in terms of our cooperation with WHO. So to make the both pathways comparable in those terms, but also to differentiate what the different pathways do differently, so that the industry has a good basis to decide which pathway better targets their needs and aligns with their strategic reasoning. I have come to the benefits or conclusions in terms of the MAGHP. So I've mentioned the very first in the very first slides that we do not have any specific restrictions in terms of indications or treatment areas, therapeutic areas. So there is no limitation to a list of products that are eligible. The procedure also helps building trust and confidence in the process, in our Swissmedic processes, through the collaboration, through the engagement. The procedure also helps building capacity at the involved NRAs, since they get to be in touch with their peers at Swissmedic, but also their peers in the participating NRAs. They get the chance to exchange within themselves, to really discuss certain matters, scientific, regulatory matters, and to come up with a consensus. So I think this is also a great benefit to it. It's the procedure produces consolidated assessment reports with country-specific considerations. So this is an added value for the industry to really not only have the Swissmedic view, but knowing that the assessment reports also reflect the country-specific requirements or considerations. And ultimately, as one of the, I think, main points, and also what is most interesting to the industry, ultimately the procedure intends and is expected to speed up the granting of national marketing authorization following the Swissmedic's approval. So the idea is to not only have reliance on Swissmedic or have a blind reliance on what Swissmedic decides. Rather, we want the NRAs that already see Swissmedic as a reference authority to be able to apply a well-informed reliance. And this is possible through the MAGHP, because then the participating assessors can really see what lies behind the assessment done by Swissmedic, what the reason is, how we work, how we apply our requirements, our criteria. So at the end is a well informed well of relying on decisions made by our reference authority. Then to conclude, I think I have some links for you to get further information on the procedure. So if you follow the first link, you'll find the general information about our regulatory system strengthening activities. There is also under that link dedicated subpage on the MAGHP procedure, where you'll find general information on the procedure, but also the guidance documents, both for the actual authorization procedure and for the scientific advice. So I really encourage you to go and download those documents so that you can go through them in detail. And if there are any additional questions, any potential interest to make use of the MAGHP, you'll find the email address at the bottom where you can contact us anytime with any type of questions related to the MAGHP procedure. And I think with that, I'm through with my slides. So I think I would be really glad to take any questions from the floor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ludovico, for that informative session. I can see the questions have not yet started coming in. I'm encouraging everyone to send in the questions that they have. Or if you want to ask, then just raise your hand, we'll unmute and give you the chance to ask. But meanwhile, I have some questions that I can maybe start with. So you had mentioned that this procedure is mostly for companies in Swiss. So what are the provisions that can be provided, or are there any provisions that are available for companies outside Switzerland?
Yeah, so I've mentioned it's not entirely limited to companies, Swiss companies, but at least there is a need to act through a local representative. And there are specialized regulatory offices that do this work to act as some sort of formal figure to interact with Swissmedic. This is a prerequisite, I think, that is true for most of the submissions in any countries. So in terms of the specific requirements for a company to be that they require to be recognized as a Swiss marketing authorization holder, I can just provide you with a link in the chat. It's yeah, I think it's a table, an Excel table where you can consult this information.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Maybe I saw a hand up, Joseph, if I'm not wrong, that was you. Please go ahead. I've already enabled your mic, so you should be able to unmute and Joseph? Okay, maybe while we wait for him to. So you had mentioned that the first step in the procedure is scientific advice for the products that you want to register. So is it possible for one to get scientific advice from Swissmedic for products that they don't intend to register through the MAGHP pathway?
Yes, so the scientific advice is not a necessary step to go through the MAGHP. It's something that might be useful for certain applicants which have questions in the early stages of the development, but it's not per se a compulsory step. And also, the scientific step advice is not a step that binds you to then go through the MAGHP. Rather, you can decide to just have the scientific advice and that's it. And it's it's a way to support applicants in dealing with this type of questions when they're confronted with really challenging questions during the development stages, so that they know they can get feedback from Swissmedic in terms of what they need to do to be able to then reach a point where they can submit.
I see there's a follow-up question. Thank you for taking that. So there's a follow-up question to that. And is the scientific advice also linked to having a representative in Switzerland?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, no. So the first, if you go through the scientific advice, you don't need to have a local representative in Switzerland. So this is something that is up to open to anyone, even like I'm thinking about some maybe product development partners who may not have either a legal representative in Switzerland or even a robust regulatory knowledge, so they can go through the scientific advice in a really, let's say, easy way without a lot of requirements.
All right. Thank you so much. I see there's still no questions from the audience. So I have two more. For the assessment reports that are developed after the completion of the procedure, are they only to be used in the NRAs that participated in the NRAs that did not participate?
Sorry, there was some connection challenges, so I did not get your question at the end.
Oh, sorry, let me just repeat. So I was asking for the assessment reports that are developed following completion of the procedure. So can they be used in areas that participate in the assessment?
Yes, actually, the assessment reports, as we see it in Swissmedic, they are the property of the applicant, of the marketing authorization holder. So if they want to leverage the assessment reports with any other countries that were not involved in the MAGHP procedure, they can do so. And this is also something that happens, for example, through the collaborative registration procedure, or with any other type of pathways or collaboration with other NRAs. So what we need is the actual consent from the applicant that we can share those assessment reports with any other NRAs.
Thank you so much. So my last question. So far, what procedures or activities do you have ongoing to get more NRAs involved HP pathway? Debbie, could you get me?
No, I think that the connection is a little bit shaky at the moment, so it was breaking up quite a lot.
All right, let me repeat. What initiatives do you have ongoing to get more NRAs involved in the Swissmedic MAGHP pathway?
Yeah, so we do have some ways that we interact and continue to interact with NRAs, but it's important to keep in mind that there is no list where NRAs can express their interest to participate. Rather, it's the other way around, where it's the industry that needs to let us know about the NRAs that they want to include. So we cannot just have a list and ask NRAs to express their interest. Rather, we have to invite them to participate. But still, we have some ways in which we interacted in the past with NRAs. One was through our regulatory training, which we organize twice a year, where we invite NRAs from LMACs from all over the world. And in the past regulatory session, training session, I think it was in October last year, we had a dedicated session on the MAGHP procedure, where we engage with assessors to better understand what their needs are, how they deal when they get some this sort of collaborative procedure, what their needs are in terms of specific requirements and so on. So we really try to get a better feeling of what the needs are at the NRAs that participate. And still, we intend to do more engaging sessions with the NRAs through WHO, with dedicated webinars and workshops, which will which are in the planning, but will come later this year. So we are really continuously trying to engage with any parties, industry and NMRAs. And the next webinar that you've kindly set up for us next week will really have target NRAs, and I think I'm really looking forward to engage with potential participating NRAs next week. So I don't know if you can still hear me, Lucy. Lucy, are you still there?
I think we've lost Lucy because of internet connection challenges. This is David here, Lodovico.
Hi, David.
Yes, and we could hear you actually perfectly well. And the last bit you mentioned about the next session that we're having next week on Friday, specifically with the NRAs as one of the key sensitization engagements to drive engagement from the NRAs and drive that conversation. So yeah, that's perfectly well. I don't know if we have any other...
Yes, I can still hear you. Are you able
So I'm just seeing there's another question in the chat. Let me go to it, Ludovico, as we get towards the end of this.
Yeah, I think I see two questions in the chat from Jacqueline Paul.
Please, subject, you can just get for response to that, and I'm also grateful. Ludovico, please, you can take them out.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one is if in the past years Swissmedic has received applications from manufacturers based in Africa, and what are some of the challenges or common trends they've encountered during these assessments? So no, actually, so far we haven't had any applications from manufacturers in Africa yet. But what I can tell about general challenges, common trends encountered during the procedure is that it's not easy for any type of manufacturers, or even, maybe the only ones are the big pharma who have a really large regulatory affairs network, and they can deal really well with the kind of national requirements, and so they can gather this type of information beforehand for them to prepare. Whereas for let's say medium or smaller companies, it's sometimes challenging to gather all this information beforehand and to get all they need so that they can prepare for submission in parallel, especially to all the countries. So that is something that can be challenging for applicants. Something that we can also try to support with our limited with our limited resources, but we can also try to set up or to try and facilitate the exchange with the NRAs, also in terms of getting information about specific requirements for the applicant. And then the second question is if the initiative is meant for finished products only, or if the agency also engages with API manufacturers. So it's actually for finished products only. It's meant for finished products only, especially, or when I talk about the marketing authorization authorization procedure, then it's for products that are intended for use by the patients. For APIs, we can engage through the scientific advice in a limited way, but actually the procedure is meant for finished products.
Thank you so much, Ludovico. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Lucy.
All right, thank you, David. So I see there was a hand up, but it's been lowered, although Joseph's hand is still up. Joseph, if you're in a position to unmute, or if you're not, then please just use the chat.
Actually, I had a question that I was to ask Ludovico as well on my end. There's David here. So Ludovico, maybe my question as well, just a follow-up to what Jacqueline had mentioned. The MAGHP is more about marketing authorization and therefore then finished pharmaceutical products. Are there any other initiatives that are being led by Swissmedic that would maybe drive value, especially when I'm looking at it from an African perspective? There's more interest around local manufacturing, there's interest around clinical research, and specifically the clinical research pathway, then definitely industry players and stakeholders need support in terms of that regulatory capacity, even from a scientific advice perspective. Are there such opportunities that do exist, and how can members participate in such? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, in terms of local production, we are not that much involved. We don't see, or we don't have, let's say, a clear mandate for us to be able to really engage with the industry at that point. What we have at Swissmedic, which is actually meant for really innovative products, is a way of supporting startups to deal with really with scientific questions and development challenges for really innovative products. It's called Innovation Office, and it's something that has been established for not that much time, so it's still quite new. But the idea is to really kind of support the development of innovative medicinal products and to accompany startups, especially so smaller businesses with limited resources to accompany them through the process. So this is something that we offer, but is mainly for startups based in Switzerland. So also here, yeah, not much an opportunity maybe for LMICs, but it's something that maybe with time we'll be able to expand. And in terms of clinical trials, we also have a kind of split competencies in Switzerland between Swissmedic and ethic committees. So in terms of clinical trials, it's the whole clinical assessment or the clinical aspects are with the competency of the ethic commissions. So Swissmedic is not as limited competencies and responsibilities in terms of clinical investigations, but we do still include some of these elements into our regulatory training offers, where we also cover some of these aspects and the tasks that Swissmedic does in this field. Yeah, I think that's what I can say about that.
Thank you so much for that, Ludovico. Really appreciate it. Over to you, Lucy.
Thank you, David. Are there any more questions just before we close? I think that brings us to the end of the session. But if there are any more questions, I don't want to leave anyone out.
I don't know if there is this hand from Joseph, but I don't know if something that we've already covered or.
Yes, that was an old hand. I did give a chance to him to ask the question, but unfortunately he's not been able to do it till now. So I saw Dorothy also had her hand up just now. Dorothy? Let me just, you can now turn on your mic and ask, or just ask in the chat box as well, whichever you prefer. All right, as we wait for Dorothy's question, for those in Kenya, I am kindly requesting that you subscribe to the webinar on the portal for you to get your CPD points. So please do so if possible before the end of the day. The points will be awarded sometime next week before Wednesday. Dorothy, was that a question that you had, or was it by mistake? Okay. All right, I think it was a mistake. That's all right, thank you. I think with that, we can come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to be here. And we hope that Ludovico has been able to impact you with the knowledge that you may need to thrive in your capacities for those in the regulatory space. And Ludovico, thank you so much for also taking the time to share this knowledge with us, working with us in this professional development journey. And maybe you can give us any final remarks before we close it off.
Yes, thank you very much, Lucy. It's been a great pleasure to have had this chance and opportunity to engage with such a broad network. So I really hope that my presentation was informative to you, that you will take maybe some time after this session to go through this information. And if at any time you have any questions, please do not ask to contact us. We're a small team, but really engaged. So we really look forward to engage with any potentially interested parties. I'm really thankful for the invitation. So thanks again to the African Pharmaceutical Network, to Lucy, David, Danish, all the team for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to next week to the similar webinar engaging with NRAs.
Thank you so much for being on the scene next week, same time, same place. But now the session will now cover more on the NMRAs, and then I wish you all a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, and bye, everyone. It's been a pleasure.